Welcome to episode 4 of our van build series. This video is all about floor and flooring. We're going to show you how to prepare the floor for a flat, seam-free finish. We're going to apply 14mm Dodo extreme thermo liner to the floor. We're going to get minimal height loss. And we're going to achieve this without putting a single screw through the metal floor. We'll be finishing off laying some Amtico flooring as well. First thing we did was fit the gas tank brackets. I'm going to cover the gas tank fitting in a completely separate video, so I'll leave that here for now. The first step for the flooring is basically to put all 4 pieces of the 12mm lightweight ply into position. These are already pre-cut on our CNC. These are dropped into position and we're going to mark the join of each board. These are marked with a 2-inch strip of masking tape. If it was a white van, I'd probably just use a marker pen. The reason we mark the centres of each of the boards is because that's where the joining strip is going to go. So the joining strip is going to be a 4-inch wide batten, which is going to take the weight of 2 boards. With all the centre lines marked, we'll basically take all of the sheets back out, ready to put the battens down. The next step is to give the floor a really good clean with some IPA, just to make sure it's degreased. The battens that we're using are cut out of 12mm birch ply. We've toyed with the idea of using lightweight ply, still 12mm, but it just doesn't take a screw as well as the birch. And the one thing we want is our floor to be securely fixed down. So we'll probably stick with the weight disadvantage of birch, just knowing that it'll take a screw really well. It's also a bit more stable and less prone to sort of warping when you've cut it into sort of 2-inch strips. Here what we've got is basically 2-inch strips along the bulk of the board, and then we've got a 4-inch strip where the 2 boards join. So that's the gist of what we've got there. This is all that I've laid them all out. I didn't film laying them out. The main reason for going to such trouble over getting the floor level is that it really does seriously impact on the way the rest of your furniture is built, because we're not building with a spirit level, we're building to 90 degrees off the floor normally. So if your floor's not level, everything else is a pain in the backside. So here I'm starting to glue up the battens, and I'm just going to work from one side to the other, decent blob on each rib. And then you can see at each end where there is a flat spot, I've actually introduced just a thin packer, because obviously it's pointless having a 20mm blob of adhesive, because it's going to take about a week to go off. So decent blob on each rib, and I do every single one. It's pointless missing one out. And then when we get to the far side again, I need another packer. There's quite a few packers needed if you take the battens right across to the step. There is quite a flat spot all along the step edge. At the ends it's necessary to put a couple of packers. You can see on this one we've actually put 2 packers down just to keep the level there. Could have easily used a couple of 9mm packers, but I think what we had to hand was some 4mm, so I just cut a bunch of 4mm, and sometimes we'll double stack them. Now we're just going to do exactly the same on the next batten. Use the spacers to give myself a line. Good blob of adhesive on each rib. I'm trying not to get it outside of my line, because it does interfere with the insulation. So it is better not to do that. So now I'm just going to repeat the process down the van for the next couple of battens. I'm probably going to stop then at the the wider one which spans the two boards, and then we'll get the leveling block out. So now we've got the leveling block out. This is about a 5.5 foot piece of 60-30 aluminium profile, so there's no flex to it at all. We use it on its long end, if that makes sense, so it's as strong as possible. And what I'm aiming to do is basically just tap down each block, press down the battens into the adhesive, both across the van and lengthways, and then just run the edge across everything just to make sure that there isn't any sort of deviation. And I think, you know, we might have half a mil here and there, but I think that's pretty good for a camper floor. So we carry on the process all the way down the van. What it doesn't show here, because I think my battery ran out on the camera by the time we got to the end of the next block, which is where we introduced sort of a 10 foot 12 foot long piece of aluminium to go lengthways down the van, so that it would cover probably, you know, at least 8 or 9 battens in one go. You could still use a shorter piece, but it gives you a bit more accuracy if you're going over a longer span. This time lapse picks up the whole process from the back end of the van. And you can see when we get to the end of the leveling process here, where we've got a sort of 12 foot piece of aluminium that we used as well. Once you finish that, the following day, Nick comes into the van, puts the 14mm dodo in between all of the battens. It's a really nice fit between the battens. And then we put the floor back down. Don't think I've got any footage showing the floor being screwed down, but we're basically screwing down on the single battens about every foot. Where the two planks join, we'd probably go about every 6 or 7 inches with a screw each side. This is a centre line. I'm not working to a centre line, but what I'm going to do is now work out what my offset from the centre line is. Okay, what I'm trying to do in the van at the moment is lay out the floor. It's having an Amtico floor. They're 4-inch planks with a 3mm spacer. Basically, this is a footprint of part of our kitchen, which is going to land here. Our bathroom wall, I guess, to within about 15mm. I'm trying to make it as wide as I can, but the bathroom wall is going to come to about here. So what I'm trying to do, and what I'm trying to set up prior to gluing these planks down, is to get myself a spacing which doesn't leave one of these black lines right on the edge of one of my cupboards. I'd like the cupboard to overlap, you know, by, it doesn't matter how much it overlaps it by, but as long as there's not a few mil showing just before a black line. If it does happen, it's not the end of the world, but that's my goal when I'm laying a floor, is to try and work out my spacing so that I haven't got a very narrow parallel line that ends up being or along the edge of the flooring. So it's just from a visual point of view, especially as, you know, if one of the cupboards runs out by a couple of mil, which is entirely possible, it's going to look really bad against a black line, whereas if I've got a couple of inches, you probably wouldn't notice, you know, a mil or two. So it's just trying to get it visually central. It won't be central to the actual van, I just want it central to my cupboards. So that's sort of the position. I've measured in from that side, measured in from this side, got my little template, and I know that I'm just over the edge. So this position is good. So what I'm going to do then is basically mark one of the lines. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to mark one of the lines where I want to start my my floor. So I'll put a straight edge here, screw it to the floor, and then start working this way from that line. And then when I'm probably 5 or 6 lines into it, I'll take the straight edge up and then carry going that way. And if I'm honest with you, I've got nearly 55-year-old knees, and I'm not going to be doing it in one hit, because I'm not staying on my knees for 8 hours. So I'll spread it over a couple of days, let the glue go off, so I'm not moving around on wet glue. But we'll just we'll do a section today, hopefully, and then another section tomorrow, and then maybe, probably that would be Friday, and then maybe Saturday I'll come in and just faff around with the scribes for a couple of hours. I'm not going to go into massive detail on the sort of fitting of the Amtico floor, because I've done a complete video on that in the past, and I'll put a link in the description. But to start this, we've got our centre, or not our centre line, our start line, which is off centre, and I'm basically just going to screw this straight edge along the line so that I can at least get the first few rows of boards in a straight manner. So after that, we'll probably just go to maybe a time lapse on it. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. If you found the video useful, then please consider subscribing to the channel. They hopefully will get better, and there's certainly some more information to follow. Hopefully I had the technical ability to put the link to the video on fitting the Amtico in the description. If I didn't, I apologise, and you will find it in one of my playlists under Amtico.